ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at ILTV.tv and watch from any device. Now, Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid is in Washington, D.C. this week for a series of high-level meetings opposite American lawmakers and diplomats. And both Lapid as well as his American hosts are largely emphasizing the relationship between Israel and the United States, as well as issues of Israel's security and the initiative to build on the growing peace in the Middle East following the historic Abraham Accords.
There are special relations between our countries, and you are one of the biggest supporters of the concept that says being pro-Israel is being bipartisan. When we all need to and can unite around the idea that we want to expand and deepen the circle of peace, and we all need and can unite around this basic principle that Israel has the right to defend itself and the Palestinians deserve a better life. And we all can unite around the idea that we will never let Iran become a nuclear threshold country.
Of course, Lapid's meetings including many other important notes as well. So joining me to discuss, expert on United States Middle East policy with Bar-Ilan University, Professor Eytan Gilboa. Professor, it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Now, Lapid met with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, as we saw, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Vice President Harris, and several more political as well as Jewish community leaders. Which discussion did you see as maybe the most important or the most surprising?
Obviously, the number one issue is Iran. And the timing is the renewal of negotiations between Iran and the United States in Vienna. The foreign minister of Iran and some other key participants, such as Angela Merkel, who was in Israel just at the beginning of this week, saying that these negotiations are going to start or to resume soon. And therefore, the purpose of, or the main purpose of Lapid's visit, this visit, is to explain the Israeli position and to learn about the American position. He's meeting with Nancy Pelosi just the other day, and his meeting today with AIPAC are designed to secure for Israel sufficient support in Congress in the Israeli position. Today, Yair Lapid, will meet with Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, as well as the Foreign Minister of the United Arab Emirates. So it is not just Israel. The United Arab Emirates represents other countries in the Gulf, on Iran, bilateral relations, and also on the Palestinian issue. So this is a critical visit at a very critical juncture of relations and negotiations between the sides.
All right, now if we put Iran to the side for a moment, Secretary of State Blinken is said to be set to warn Lapid against Chinese investment in the Israeli economy as well. Israeli officials reportedly saying that Jerusalem is willing to back away from the Chinese government, but at the same time rejects the idea of blocking all Chinese investment, especially when some of these same Chinese firms are operating on U.S. soil. How far do you expect Israel to take these suggestions?
Well, Israel is taking very seriously these American reservations about China. We know that this is not new. Both the Trump administration and now the Biden administration have defined China as the number one threat to peace and security in Asia, first of all, but also in the world. And the United States is completely dissatisfied with the Chinese Belt and Road economic projects around the world, which includes ports, railroads, airports. The Chinese are building the metro in Tel Aviv, but also private independent ports, especially in Haifa. And so the warning or the request is to limit as much as possible Chinese investments in the Israeli economy, because in American eyes, these investments are not just economic or are driven by economic and trade relations. They are also meant to increase Chinese power in the region.
All right, now next I want to talk about the Palestinians for a moment. In the comments we just heard, Foreign Minister Lapid mentions how the Palestinians deserve a better life, but he didn't really go into any details. We're increasingly seeing reports that Ramallah is stepping away from Washington, though, in that they don't see Washington as capable of pressuring Israel into making various concessions. Is the Biden administration not the friend that the Palestinian Authority is looking for, or does the White House maybe just lack the necessary leverage to effect change? Or maybe there's a third option in which the Biden administration is itself stepping back away from the failed Palestinian Authority?
Well, first of all, Lapid emphasized what the United States is also talking about, and that is economic peace or economic contributions to the Palestinians, both in the West Bank and Gaza. So this is in line with American interests right now. Secondly, the Biden administration understands that under Bennett, the new Israeli government is simply incapable of resuming any serious negotiations with the Palestinians about a permanent solution. And if the Biden administration were to press Israel too much, then the alternative would be the emerging of Netanyahu as a potential new prime minister, the return of Netanyahu. This is something that the Biden administration is not interested in, and therefore they are paying lip service to the Palestinian issue. They have to mention it, but we should not expect any serious, major American effort to press Israel and the Palestinians to go ahead with any meaningful negotiations in the foreseeable future.
All right, Professor Eytan Gilboa, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at ILTV.tv and watch from any device.